Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for some literary ramblings. And I am also off this weekend. I think I'm off until Tuesday. I'll have to double check on that. So I can get a lot of reading done this weekend. And the stupid AVES security message keeps popping up on my computer. But anyway, so let's talk what I am currently reading. As of right now, I'm kind of focusing on two books because they are both chunky books. And as I said, my Goodreads goal is to work on my reading bigger books. Despite the fact that, there will be a little bit of pressure since I decided to set my goal to 150 books. And again, I remind you that's because I want to do it, not because, I look at books as a number or data or whatever. You cannot tell me that I don't enjoy my reading just because I set a high number goal for the Goodreads challenge. That still kind of bugs me, that in that discussion that I saw on my Facebook book group that I'm in, where someone had made the comment about if you put a quota on you do the Goodreads challenge and you put like 1,000 books or 150 books or 500 books or whatever, that you must not be enjoying your reading because you're just rushing your reading because it's all about the competition for you. And like I said, some people, and maybe if it is a competition for people, that's none of their business. Anyway, fine, if you don't like you don't like doing a good read, coming up with a number of books you want to read that year, then that's fine. Good for you. If that's what you want to do, then do you. But don't assume that just because people put a number on how many books they want to read, even if it's above 10 books or more, does not mean they're not enjoying their reading. I want to challenge myself. It's for me. I'm not competing with anybody. I'm not trying to compete with any booktuber. If I'm competing with someone, it's with myself. But I'm not. But at the same time, I'm like. But with that being said, to me, it's not a competition. To me, it's just I know I can. I want to prove that I can do that. I can read 150 books in a year, and it's not. And it doesn't mean I'm enjoying my books less because I'm rushing my reading. That has nothing to do with it. And you can't really assume just because you see someone putting a number on them as many books as they want to read. Some people like the feeling of accomplishment or the thrill of accomplishing that. For me, that's what it's about. And as you can see, it still bothers me thinking about that. And I'm trying not to think about that, as I do get nervous on occasion. That it's taking me a while to focus. Like, it's more satisfying. It's very satisfying when you do finish a book. So the first, I'm focusing, and I'm also kind of trying to focus on my series. And like, there's certain series now, if it's like a trilogy or duology, or even like possibly even 4 books, I'm going to try 4 to 6 books, and I'm going to try to finish those within the year. But if it's more than 6 books, then I'm probably not going to finish it within the year, but I'm going to read as many books in that series as possible, because part of my problem is I'll finish the first book and I'll really enjoy it, but then I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna wait and take a break from the series and come back to the next book later. And I have not come back to, and there's the Wheel of Time, for example, the Wheel of Time series. I read The Ivor, I loved it. And, and I was a little apprehensive because his writing style has been compared to Tolkien, and I feel like every time I hear, like, people talk about how Tolkien will take a whole page to describe, like, a tree or something, then I'm like, I don't want to read that, I'll just watch the movie. That's definitely one of my reasons why I never actually physically read the book, and it's, until I finally decided maybe audiobook would be better. But it was just easier to just go watch the movie. And maybe that's being lazy, but you know what? I read anyway. I may not have physically read Lord of the Rings, but I did, I would rather watch the movie. And sometimes there are people that do enjoy reading. There are certain books that they would just rather watch the movie because they're a big commitment, or, they're hard to comprehend sometimes, and not because they're not, not English or whatever, but it's just sometimes they're a lot more complicated and get big ideas that sometimes it's just you're distracted by all the words in the big tome of a book, and you just want to get to the point. So it's easy to watch the movie or the TV show in some cases. But like Wheel of Time is 14, but I loved it. I enjoyed The Eye of the World, and I didn't even notice all the dragging on with the writing. Now, of course, I still haven't. I have only read the first book, and I read the middle section of the whole series, and it's 14 books. It's a bit of a drag for a lot of people. So I want to, and I was like, oh, I'll get to once I finished Eye of the World last year, which I'm acting like this was years ago, and it was just last year that I read it. Last year, 2020 felt like a long time for a lot of people, I think. And so I don't want, and I kept saying I would get to the next book, The Great Hunt, and I never got around to it. So finally, I want to do that this year. And I want to read the next book, The Dragon Reborn. I want to read at least 4 or 5 books from that series. And because that's 14 books. So I want, with a book that long, I want to read at least a handful of the novels in that series. Now I still have not picked up the Great Hunt because I'm all the current books I'm reading right now. So this is one of those 4 books. This first book I'm going to talk about is one of those 4 book series that I could probably, if I put my mind to it, I could probably read all 4 books within the year. That's what I would like to do. But the writing style is kind of a bit of a hindrance. It's not hard to follow. It's a great plot. I'm enjoying the plot. And I like to believe, at least I'm not one of those people who will dismiss a book because of, will not like a book just because of the writing style. I feel like I'm a plot-driven reader, and I'm still enjoying it. It's just sometimes the writing feels very juvenile and feels very YA, which is not what I was expecting. And he does a lot of tell, not show. Now, I don't know if this is the author's first book, or maybe that's just his writing style, or this is because it's the first book in the series. And maybe it has to do with the whole, our main character is a kid, like a 15, I think, he's 15, 15-year-old kid. And he reminds me, like, a mix between Fitz Farseer and Javid from the Dragon Riders saga by, I cannot remember the author's name. Which, that's a fun series. That's another fun series. Where, like, he's a young kid with great power, and comes with great responsibility, and he's taken in by a teacher, and he's part of, like, he's connected to, like, in this, like Fitz, he's connected to the royal family in a way, although Pug, our main character in the story, definitely is more accepted and welcomed by the royal family, and he's not a bastard or anything, he's just an orphan. So he's not part of the royal family, but he's very much accepted in the royal family, and he's a squire, and the Duke has a lot of respect for him as a kid, he's, as much respect as you can give a kid. And like Javid, he's nice. He has a lot of great power, and he can lose his temper, but he's mostly a nice, good young man, and wants to do the right thing, and cares about the people in his life, and will do anything to protect them, and he wants to be somebody special. But he's also very shy and very sweet. And even the current love interest remind me of Javid's first love interest. The girl that, like, it was mentioned that she would be, like, actually he's kind of, now that I think about it, she's kind of a mixture of both his first love and then the girl he meets later on who becomes the endgame love interest. Although I've not read the spin-off series for the Dragon Rider series, so I want to read that one. If it's easy to get, if it's something but who knows, maybe it will be at if we ever go back to GalaxyCon this year, then maybe we'll be there, because that's actually, I believe, where I got the first book series was at GalaxyCon. So I'll have to look for it to see what's there and maybe get it. But so basically, Pug is this orphan. Like I said, he's an orphan, and he gets taken. He's of that age where boys his age will become apprentices, and he is taken on because no one claims him. No one wants to take him on. No one takes him on as apprentice. The Duke's magician, the Duke of Cryde, his magician takes Pug on as his apprentice because he sees potential in Pug and he sees he might be meant to be a magician. And of course Pug struggles with it because he, his magic is very different than what the Master Clugan, the court magician, the way he looks at magic. It actually that part of the story makes me think of Uprooted a little bit, where as Kanishka's, her magic was much more wild and chaotic, and the dragon's magic was more like logical. And he just gets really frustrated. Wow, Clugan is very fascinated by Pug and what his connection to magic is. Clugan is a lot nicer than the dragon, I will say that. And what I really like about this one is that Pug's friend Thomas is also, like, he has his own story. Like, you see, he has his own. He's becoming, we even, like, get it's omnipresent narrator, I believe that's what it would be. And when we're with the character, and at one point Pug and Thomas get separated in the plot of the story, and we see Thomas's journey, the start of his own personal journey in this book. So the rest of the plot, when Pug is apprentice, he and Thomas witness an alien ship, and not alien as in those weird, the people who live in space, but just like alien as in, like, kind of like how we call immigrants aliens, come to Cryde, their kingdom and their realm, and this leads the Duke and his men to think that there might be an invasion. These people and it might come to war. So they're getting the elves and the dwarves and the other kingdoms all together to defeat these aliens, these people from another world. And so Pug and Thomas asked to come along on this journey to talk to the other kings, to talk to the other races and help them. And that they meet the dwarves and the elves, and Thomas develops a crush on the queen of the elves. And at one point, there's one part where they are going through these dwarves' mines, and they get attacked by these wraiths, and Thomas, who's being trained as a knight, takes off to distract the wraiths, and they get separated. And we eventually, and one of the Dwarf King offers to go find Thomas, and unfortunately Thomas is forced to stay with the dwarves. So I thought that was I really liked that. I liked how we get Thomas' story, because sometimes in these kinds of stories, not always, but sometimes, like, when a character has a good friend, or a hero character has a friend or something, a lot of times they get pushed aside. They're just meant to, represent the hero and be their friend and represent their connection to humanity if they have power and could lose themselves, and, or they're like the psychic, and they might have their own conflicts to deal with, but their story is not the most important part of the story. Now, I don't know, they're still early, and this is only the first book. Of course, I'm almost finished with it. That's one of the I think, like, I could potentially get through these 4 books because they're not that long. So hopefully, and there's 18 chapters, and I'm on chapter 13. So I'm gonna bring chapter 14 at some point. This is more like fun. I feel like this is just fun, and and also the write style, it's juvenile. It feels juvenile, but it also makes it easy to read and to follow along with the plot. Sorry, my dad's talking to our neighbors. So it's easy, the plot is easy to follow and to get into. But, like I said, it's also, so there's pros and cons to the writing. So on the one hand, it's easy to get into, but on the other hand, sometimes it can feel a little unsatisfying for me. And there's times when the sentences feel a little awkward, and like each chapter starts with, Pug did this, or this happened, or it felt like this, or and the sentence structure is very simple. And there's other people that probably explain it better than I do when I try to talk about sentence structure, and how sometimes the sentence structure can feel a little bit disappointing and a little too easy for me. I really like, so far, I don't have any character, again, just like with the other book I read, Gardens of the Moon, I feel very lukewarm about these characters. I do have a soft spot more for them than I did the Gardens of the Moon characters, especially Pug. He's such a sweet boy, and another thing I like is that the romance drama, there's the Duke's daughter, the princess, is like, Pug has been asked to be her escort when she's going for rides on her horse, and Pug is forced to save her from a charging beast, and that's when he taps into his magic. And she's so grateful, and she develops an infatuation of him, like a bit of a crush on him, and is obsessed with him. But of course, before, she was flirting with this other boy that, Pug was sort of friends with, Roland. And when she's all about Pug, he gets jealous. Roland is jealous, and there's a rivalry between them, a tension. And eventually, due to the encouragement of the Elf Prince, when the elves come visit them to talk about the conflict of the plot, he decides to go talk to Roland. But of course, they get into a fist fight because boys will be boys. And then what I really like, though, is that after they got violent, and Pug almost used his powers on Roland and realized and stopped himself and saved Roland's life. Got Roland to calm down. They actually talked about it, and they realized they settled their differences, and were like, this is stupid, and they had realized that the girl was the problem, and that she was manipulative and a bit of a brat. They're not over her. They didn't decide, oh, I'm not interested anymore in her, but they did start to realize that we shouldn't let this girl get between us, which, as I was telling Terry, we were talking about, and I didn't exactly bring up the book per se, but I was talking about the whole concept of when there's a love triangle, and the two characters are fighting over the one person, and not always, occasionally, sometimes, it's not their fault, the person in the middle, but sometimes people need to consider the possibility that the person in the middle they're fighting over is the master manipulator, and that she's not being fair to them, and maybe he or she, I should say, is not being fair to them and is manipulating their emotions, and that he or she needs to make a choice. I keep wanting to say she, because a lot of times it is the two guys fighting over a girl, but sometimes he or she is manipulating the situation, as being a brat and being unfair, and that maybe you need to look at that person instead of looking at each other. Like, people get in a habit of blaming each other and not putting blame where it belongs. Now, again, like I said, it's not always that case, but I think, like, the princess, which I still don't know, is Caroline or Caroline, I don't know how you say it. It looks like it's spelled Carline, so it looks like Caroline, but I don't like saying Caroline because it sounds like weird saying Caroline, so I would rather say Caroline. I don't think she realizes how, in her case, I think she's young and naive and doesn't really mean to be a manipulator, but I think she is. She's entitled and used to getting what she wants. So I think she's just not as self-aware. She's aware, but she's not, like, doing it. She's not, like, a master manipulator. She's not, like, me. She's not, like, Scarlett O'Hara of Gone with the Wind. Where she's very confident in herself. She just wants what she wants. She's, a little, like, and she doesn't consider their feelings. She's not mature enough, or doing it on purpose, not considering their feelings on purpose. it's just she's so caught up in her getting what she wants and being all about her and being spoiled and used to people fawning over her that she doesn't even consider that, okay, I'm not being fair to these boys. I need to talk, I need to make a decision. And at least tell one of them to go away. And at the moment, she leans more towards Pug, but, who knows? Pug is currently gone, and Roland, the other boy, is trying to, woo her and stuff. And Pug is, he's actually cool with it. He's like, okay, fair is fair, He's not gonna let this girl, even no matter how much no matter how infatuated he is with her, he's not gonna let her get in the way of a perfectly good friendship. Now we kind of get a little bit of that in the middle of, and we also do that kind of in the Dragon Rider series where this one character started out as a bully to our main character David and his friend, who I don't remember the friend's name. And, the love interest, but then over time they eventually become friends. I really like that. And I don't know, maybe you're just only getting, maybe they only have that in middle grade or young YA. And maybe we don't get that as much in YA because people want conflict and drama and people fighting and, But I like it when there's not, not, now, granted, it's not as easy to make someone change and become nicer. It doesn't happen overnight, but so maybe that's why, like in YA, especially older YA, it's not as easy to get someone to all of a sudden become two people that one is a bully and one isn't, to all of a sudden become friends. Because you don't just all of a sudden become friends. Like, you don't have an epiphany or anything like that. Not that they make it easy for the characters, but, they don't have that one moment where they realize, oh, this is stupid, you're not a bad person, let's bond, or, like, I was watching, I can't remember, Cinema Therapy, which is a great, if you like, looking at movies, analyzing movies, and looking at how movies can kind of relate to real life. And one of the guys, I don't know if it was the guy who was, the therapist himself, or the other guy who was just a fan of movies, but one of them had a story about, like, he was getting bullied by this one kid when he was little, and his mom invited that kid over for them to hang out and bond over something. I don't remember what it was they were bonding over, and then, so after that, the kid stopped bullying him, but they never were, like, but he also said they weren't, like, all of a sudden friends. He just stopped bullying him because they bonded over something. So that's probably the best you'll get, is maybe you might bond over something and the person will stop bullying you because you're not as bad as they think. But either way, it was still kind of nice to see in this book. So far, and like I said, I still like it. My only issue is the writing style. But that's not enough for me to not continue reading a book. So I'm hoping to get it done in the next few days, the next 3 days. I don't know, though. There's no guarantee, but I definitely need to read this one in bed tonight. Because I've been reading the other book I'm going to talk about in bed. Last night, I was like, because I had to be at work clocking by 8, so I was going to get up super early. So last night, I would somewhat wake up every hour or so and think, oh, I'm going to have to get up soon. So I was like, my brain was a little bit alert, but it wasn't, like, completely awake. So it's just funny, and I wonder if that's how my mom is, like, because she says sometimes it takes her a while to fall asleep, and her best sleep is, like, early in the morning, with a few more hours until the wake-up time. But I also, like, it has a little bit of political intrigue, like, and I think it's simple enough that, I definitely think this is more middle grade than anything. But it's a little bit longer, like maybe older middle grade going into high school. But they have court politics and, like, there's a bit of some controversy of this one king is not that great and he's becoming paranoid and crazy, and it's like, and they don't know if they're going to be able to convince him to join, to prepare for battle and to join in the war against, this new alien force that might be a threat to them. Now, I'm curious though if the princess is going to be the end game love interest, or if there's gonna be new love interest that's gonna be introduced later. Kind of curious because I'm not a big fan of her character. I mean, she's starting to grow on me, but she can be annoying and very immature, and she has a lot of growing up to do. Like I said, she's used to getting what she wants, and she's very spoiled. So she's really the only character that's not like not meant to be like a bad antagonist that I'm not a big fan of. She's the only non-antagonist character that I'm just not crazy about. So this refers to this next book. It actually refers to my series, my whole thing of what I was saying earlier in the video about series and how I want to make like series like the smaller series that are 4 books at the most. I want to try to get done 6 possibly, like with the Barsetshire Towers by the Barsetshire series by Anthony Trollope. That is 6 books, but I only have a few left in that series, like 4 books left. Yeah, 4 books, because I read books 1 and 2, so I have book 3, book 4, book 5, book 6. Okay, so 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 4. So 4 books to go in that series. So that's why I said 6 earlier, but really, I guess I'm not reading 6 books. I'm reading just 4 books. It's just a 6 book long series. So this is one of my longer series. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books in this one. So it's not as long as the Wheel of Time series, but still pretty long. So I read The Garden. So I'm talking about, of course, the series, the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. I read the first book and I decided to immediately jump into the next book because my problem is, as I said earlier, that I tend to be like, oh, I'll read the next book later in the year, and I never get around to it. So I finished Gardens of the Moon, and I started Dead House Gates, which I don't expect to finish within the month. I mean, I have like 2 weeks left in this month, so there's no way I'm going to get this chunk of a book finished within 2 weeks. There's just no way. So basically this is a series where it's a fantasy war series where the previous emperor was usurped by an Empress Lysine, and of course you get the people that are not into her rulership, and then the people that are her loyal followers, and she wants to expand her empire, which I cannot pronounce the name of where she wants to expand her empire. I know it's a D word. And so the first book, we get these assassins, a story about these assassins, and I don't think they're for the Empress. And we have the assassin's perspective, and I believe they did mention that Lysine was a former assassin herself. We get that perspective, and then we also get the character that is a captain of an army, and he's currently he's gonna take the place of one of the current captain. He's gonna be like his general. I don't know these terms. I don't know a lot about war and stuff, so I don't know all the terms and stuff and the hierarchy in an army. But I don't know if he's second in command. He's gonna be second in command or first, or he's taking the place of the other guy. Whiskey Jack is his name. I like the names in this. Some of the names are very I like some of the names in this series. And we get multiple perspectives, and we do get a little perspective from those who are in support of the Empress, and which I really like that I'm always been a fan of multi-perspective stories, and I like stories where we get the different sides to the argument, instead of just the one side where, oh, these are the heroes and these are the bad guys, and because it's not that simple. It's not a black and white issue. These people really believe that, of course, all villains believe that they're doing what's right, And that's what makes them interesting, is they see themselves as in the right. And they see their ideas as justify their beliefs. But we get both perspectives in this, the people who follow and are loyal to the Empress, and then the people that are like rebelling against her and are trying to discreetly stop her and from expanding. And so there's a lot going on in that story. There's these assassins to take the assassins' main goal is to take down this one woman, this one noble lady, take away her title and destroy her home. And there's one of the characters, a young kid, is being hunted down because he's the coin bearer. He has a special coin where that is helping him be controlled by one of the gods. He's one of the gods' puppets. And that's another interesting concept, is they introduce gods in this world. And they're like, we don't know a lot about the gods, but there's definitely some intrigue there. So there's a lot going on in the story, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who would probably be better at explaining what's going on, the plot of this series, better than I do. Now, the only thing I will say this, I do notice what other reviewers have said, which is they kind of keep you at a distance with the characters. It's hard to get attached to the characters because they do all come off as very similar, and they're, while like very hard and very war driven and tough and badass and everything, but there's no nuances or no in between, or at least it doesn't feel like that at first. But as the story progresses, you definitely see at least a little bit of nuances in the first book. And I did hear from Elliot Brooks' review that this originally was meant to be, the first book, Gardens of the Moon, was meant to be a movie originally. So it kind of, I guess, reads like a movie script. So the characters were kept at a distance. There were only a few characters. Like, I liked Krupp's character. I think that's how you say his name. I was amused by his third person way of speaking. Like, he reminded me a little of Yoda from the Star Wars series with the way he spoke. And I feel like he was a character that there was a lot of intrigue and mystery, and people didn't know what they were getting into with him. And then I liked Crocus. He's the coin bearer. He's the one who had the coin. He's a young kid, and I always have a soft spot for the young kid characters when you're in a group of adults. All the characters were very likable, even the characters that were on the side of the Empress, because clearly I don't think you're supposed to like her and her side. So I think there is a bit of like the Empress, it's implied the Empress is seen as an antagonist, like not everybody loves her. I would be curious if we got her perspective and we spent time with her character. That I think would be really interesting, because she probably wouldn't see herself as a villain, as an antagonist, like most people that end up being the antagonist. And maybe she's not the true antagonist. Maybe it's more the gods that are the antagonist. So, while now in the second book, we are with a different group of characters. We are with the Empress's army. That group of characters, but we do have some characters like Crocus and Fiddler, and I can't remember the other guy, they're on their little mission. And so we spend some time with them again. We go back and forth between the main group of characters that work for the Empress, and then we go to this group of characters. And there's, of course, a bit of office rivalry tension amongst these characters. These new characters, they do not. There's, she had recruited a guy, her own lieutenant or captain or whatever, who was loyal to the previous emperor, but she realized he was good at leading the armies and stuff like that, so she rehired him back. So it's debatable if he's loyal, and I think the Empress's advisors don't really trust him 100%. Which I guess if I was on an opposing side, then yeah, I would feel the same way. And we also get the perspective of a historian, which I think that's interesting. And he's basically participating in this because he takes note of this. He wants to record the history of these events. So it's like he's putting himself in danger because, just so he can record these events. That I find that really like, wow. I mean, I appreciate it, but you're putting your life in danger, and you're not a soldier. Which another character I think did ask him about that. I remember another soldier was like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I'm recording this. This is important. This is part of history. Or this will be part of history." And then we have, I guess then we have the other character that, let's see if I can find. But I love characters where there's political intrigue and characters are planning on. We have a priest who actually just got kicked out of the group because they're like, "We don't need you. You're no help to us." But I like stories like where there's tension between the people, running whatever, the business or the army or the kingdom or whatever. I like when there's tension and there's distrust because it's so interesting, those conversations and nuances of those conversations and wondering what's going to happen. Are they ever going to trust each other? Is this going to make things worse? Is one of them going to betray the other? It's always very, like, you just don't know what's going to happen, and, that whole tension that's slowly building is just very, like, very engaging to read about. And it's kind of, and like I said, it's kind of nice to read something that's not just, to read that kind of dramas. I like reading that kind of drama. Sometimes because it's a breath of fresh air, in a way, which maybe doesn't make any sense to some people, but for me, it's like I don't feel as, tense or as, like, driven crazy by the emotional drama. Like, I can just relax and be engaged in the story and be intrigued over, the drama of who's going to get together. Like, I'm basically talking about comparing this to, talking about romances, or that's why I kind of prefer other kinds of drama, because it's, more relaxing to read this kind of drama of characters and more entertaining than reading the drama about who's going to get together with who. And, I'm still entertained by those. Like, but it's a lot more fun to read this kind of stuff for me personally. So those are the two books I'm focusing on, and once I finished with this one, I don't know if I'm going to jump into I know, like, I should jump into the next book, but I think I'm going to risk taking a step back and just saving it for maybe, like, I'll pull it out and keep it, like, exposed to me, like, keep it in view, but, so I can start reading it. I mean, I might start it, because like I said, there's probably not as many chapters, just like this is only 18 chapters. I'm sure that the next book won't be as long either. I'm wondering I'm curious if that second book was this one, like, kind of like how Lord of the Rings, that, it wasn't meant to be a trilogy, and, the Fellowship and the Two Towers and Return of the King were all meant to be one big book, but they made it so that it would be, 3 individual books physically, because it says, well, first of all, this is the author's preferred edition. So I'm wondering if maybe this one and the second one, which is also called Magician Master, I wonder if that's one book. Was one book originally. But those two. I did not realize also that I was looking up, because I came across a reading order of this just to double check. And apparently this is one of those where there's multi-books in the series. Like, it's a whole big world. And he has multiple individual series. A lot of fantasy authors do that, I think. Like, where they'll write books, which I feel like YA authors won't necessarily, although I feel like YA authors are starting to do that. Like, Sarah J. Maas, although it's debatable she's YA or new adult, because new adult supposedly doesn't exist, but I feel like Sarah J. Maas is very new adult. Like, not exactly, like, a little bit more mature than young adult, but not as mature as adult. Like, definitely somewhere in the middle, like college age, where you're starting to think like an adult and be mature as an adult, but you're not exactly there. You still act very immature at times. And you're still trying to figure out who you are as a person, and then you're discovering things, certain concepts. But so yeah, I think she's doing that, and what's her name? The woman who writes the Grishaverse. I can't think of her name at the moment. She's writing multiple books as well. And then, like, a lot of authors are publishing new books in their series or trilogies that they finished it years ago, but then they decided, I'm going to write more books. Like, a lot of authors that are writing for young adult are doing that. Like, they're writing more books in their series. Which, it's, if you're a fan, that's great. If you are a fan of that author's work and you want in that world that they created, then yeah, that's awesome. But if you're not a fan, or you have kind of moved on from that world and want to read new stuff, then it's kind of annoying. Like, especially when authors decide to publish more books. Like, Stephenie Meyer finally published Midnight Sun. I was like, okay, I moved on. I wanted it to come out at the time, but now I'm not interested anymore. So it's like, now you publish it? Or like with Ransom Riggs, I finally finished the Peculiar Children trilogy, and then I find out, oh, now he's writing more books. I mean, that's great for the author. That's good for them. And it's their career. They're making money off of it. So what? Like, I know that some people are like, write something else and do something more original. Try something new, like with Cassandra Clare and stuff. But, if they're having fun, they're happy. Yes, it's a good idea to try something new, but let them, enjoy it. If they're making money on it, it's not a crime to enjoy making money. I know, if you have it, you shouldn't feel guilty, and just help people. Like, if you want to, then, at least do something with, but at the same time, do something with your money as well. Like, help people out with your money. Don't just hoard it either. And which I think is why a lot of celebrities do, like, charity work and stuff like that, because they don't want to look like they're hoarding their money, because it'll be selfish, not to share your money, at least some of your money. So maybe I'm turning my laptop downstairs after all. So that is what is going on with my reading right now. I would love to hear what's going on in your reading right now. Are you going to be doing a lot of reading this weekend, or is work preventing you from doing any? If you are able to work, is work, because I don't know if people are able to go back to work. Yeah, I wonder if people have gone back to work yet. I don't know. But I'm lucky enough that I've been able to work, because my job is was always one of those necessary. I work in grocery stores, so people still need to buy food. But anyway, basically, I just want to know, are you guys reading? What are you reading? And if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to know when I post more videos. And I hope you're still wearing your mask. And I hope you are washing your hands and staying 6 feet apart from people. Because as I said, this virus is not done yet. It's not going away. Yes, there's a vaccine to help you fight it, but it doesn't mean it's going away anytime soon. And I hope you're enjoying your reading and being kind to each other. Alright. Bye.